Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast.
Sean, welcome to Philly. Aaron as well. Me, welcome to Philly. Are we on your show or mine?
Yeah, we're on my show.
We're on your show.
Yeah. Aren't we?
Oh, wait, no, I thought we were on my show.
No, wait, you want to fight about it?
Well, maybe let's just get on both our shows.
That's a good idea.
All right. Well, Sean, you're here in Philly doing the sales training for Exact Solar, and there was a couple things I wanted to get your opinion on. Because we do a news roundup here at This Week in Solar, which is my show. And I think the three stories that people have been most interested in the last year, we've gotten the most attention and engagement on, are first, plug-in solar, second, large solar companies failing, and third, the One Big Beautiful Bill. So I wanted to, in that order, get your opinion on those things, as someone who's been in the industry probably longer than I've been alive. Let's start with plug-in solar. What are your thoughts on it?
Okay, you teenager. You expect me to remember three things in a row?
I'll remember them for you. If we can go over them together.
Okay, maybe we can just combine it all into one question.
Okay.
And what was it? It was plug-in solar.
Yeah.
It was big companies failing.
Yeah.
And what?
One Big Beautiful Bill. Everything that's going on with tax credits phasing out. I say let's treat it as three separate things.
Whatever. So figure out if it was a plug-in solar company that failed because of the one BBB. How about that?
I don't think that's happened yet because the plug-in solar hasn't passed, so it can't fail because of the taking away of the tax credit.
Okay, I was trying to cheat and get out of it just with answer one question.
No, let's take all three of them.
Okay.
So, what is your opinion on plug-in solar? It's getting a lot of momentum. Several states have just legalized it. Colorado's close. I know Maine and Virginia have legalized it. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see more and more states starting to let people just buy their own systems and slap them down in the sun and plug them into a standard outlet.
You know what I was kind of thinking of? It's kind of a DIY thing. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the people that are full force behind it are actually people that it might even hurt a little bit because they're in the solar industry and they're trying to do solar themselves. And that people are going to be like, oh, why do I need you? I can just plug in my own solar. So I think that's kind of cool. And it just goes to prove that the people in the solar industry are the coolest people in the world. And they're not out here for selfish reasons. They want people to be able to plug in their own solar.
Okay.
And so I was at the InterSolar, now they call it the Smarter E, and InterSolar being part of the conference in Munich last year, where they've been doing plug-in solar, they call it balcony solar for a while, because they kind of pioneered it in Germany, where they pioneered a lot of stuff from the solar industry. And it was kind of interesting to me that they had a big trade show, probably the second biggest solar trade show in the world after SNEC. And they had huge aisles and aisles of plug-in solar companies, balcony solar companies. And they didn't just have people making the equipment. They actually had cool dudes that I was hanging out with that were plug-in solar installers. And so they went and they made their own plug-in solar companies where they go out and help the homeowner. So if people might be in the solar industry and they know how to do wire management and stuff like that, people might hire them to do it. And then you can be a solar installer that doesn't do permits. Because that's kind of the big thing about plug-in solar.
Ooh, that is
you don't have to do permits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of what the laws about. And I know they've been trying to include it in the 2029 National Electrical Code. Yeah. And there's different states that are trying to do it. It sounds like it might just be this huge thing that happens all at once. So it's pretty cool.
So potentially a lot of opportunity, because homeowners are going to want these mounted correctly, even though they plug into a standard outlet. The average person is not going to know how to mount them to their porch.
Yeah, and they were kind of telling me, because I was asking them about that too, and they were just there's just some people want to have somebody do it a little bit better. Right. It's probably not that hard to do some of that stuff, but maybe to make it more symmetrical. And then a lot of these systems, I think, have batteries associated with them. So it is something that you should be able to pick up at your big box store and take it home and plug it in and have a battery and have some PV and plug it into the wall and there you go.
Yeah.
But I guess the one thing that makes it so you might not be able to do it in certain states, or like maybe it doesn't comply with the code if the states don't approve it, is that what if you got a new one every week, kept on plugging it into your power adapter, and then you're like plugging in, and pretty soon you have like 20 plug-in solars on your giant balcony and one outlet.
Right.
It also has like 16 portable space heaters in it.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, that, I think there's some safety concerns I've heard about. Like, I think someone mentioned that it might, I think, short out GFCI, or like the current protection for anyone who doesn't understand electrical acronyms. And then, you know, like it would make it so that if there was water near the outlet, someone could touch the outlet and potentially electrocute themselves. I don't know much about it, but I've heard that there's some safety concerns we need to overcome. But most states have wattage limits. Like, I think Colorado is 1900 watts. I think Utah is 1200 watts that you can have of balcony solar. But I think also it's probably very hard to tell and very hard to enforce.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens when lots of people have it, to see if anybody has a problem, you know? And they plug too many of them in, because another thing is homeowners aren't going to comply with the rules.
Right. Right.
So you can only have this many watts, like,
That's another, yeah, we were talking about that the other day, me and a friend. It was just like that, you know, so much of this depends on homeowner competence. But we live in America where, you know, you buy a microwave and it says, there's a sticker that says, don't put your head in here and turn it on.
Yeah, and what do I do when my head gets cold?
Right, exactly. So we have to assume that there's going to be some kind of user error with plug-in solar.
Yeah. And so, like, I think it's one of those things where you could come up with all these different scenarios of, like, yeah, like, just like I was saying, to plug in a whole bunch of things into power strips and space heaters. It's obviously stupid, and probably nobody's going to do that unless they were just trying to be stupid on purpose to get their fire insurance.
Or for attention online. It's like the YouTube video, I wired 50 plug-in solar systems to each other to see what happened.
Yeah, and so it would be stupid. And they'll probably have stickers on them, and it'll say, like, warning, you know, do not plug more than 2 of these into this kind of outlet.
Yeah.
And I think some other things, too, that I was trying to think of, like, you have a branch circuit, and maybe you have multiple plugs going to one breaker. So if you have different branch circuits, you should be able to put different systems. Or you don't want to put in that same branch circuit, you don't want to put your plug-in solar in one of them and 2 space heaters into the other one. Like, there's some little things like that that could get people into trouble. So maybe there could be some kind of way to get a homeowner to be able to know what's in that branch circuit, and maybe there should be some kind of way where it could be simple enough for a homeowner to understand. It's like, turn off the breaker, see which plugs turned off, and then go out there and, like, the ones that turned off, you put something over, like, do not use or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Or do not plug 2 space heaters into this outlet. You can still use it, but just not 2 space heaters.
Right. So overall, you think plug-in solar is very cool. It's awesome. There's a lot of opportunity, but there's probably going to be some people who mess it up, and it'll just kind of have to be like a natural evolution of who makes it through the natural safety testing of deploying a bunch of these with the public and then seeing what happens.
Yeah, and, like, I guess I'm thinking personally, like, yeah, I teach a lot about codes and standards and how to be safe and stuff, but I also, maybe in my personal life, you know, how to be dangerous. It's kind of fun. So, like, I know other people that teach solar classes, and then you get to their house and they're like, you're obviously doing lots of testing here because this is remotely legal.
I think we have episode 100 coming up, and I'm interviewing a friend of mine who goes by Mr. Money Mustache online. I don't know if you ever read his blog.
I've heard of something like that, yeah.
So he bought 10 250 watt solar panels off of Craigslist for like nothing, and then just wired them in series, and then unplugged his water heater and wired them directly into his water heater. Just pulled his water heater off of his panel and just used them to heat the water in his home.
And so far the water heater is not exploded?
No, it's actually fine. Yeah.
He must have read something to know the right amount of solar modules to put on there or something.
I doubt he did. He's a wild man. Yeah, by the way, if you're listening to this, do not do anything like that. I work for an accredited installer. Please find professionals. Do not mess around with electricity in your home unless you're a professional like Sean.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and there's so many different rules of what you can do in this state and that state, and then you see what they're doing in different countries.
Right.
And, just, I think common sense and being careful are probably the most important things. So hooking 10 solar modules into a hot water heater, if you did 20 maybe or something, something could happen.
Right.
And the worst case scenario, like what I was saying, was like with a hot water heater, there's a pressure relief valve. And say that didn't work, and then the hot water got too hot. And the way that a lot of old style power plants work is with steam. And once you heat up water past 100 degrees Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit, it explodes.
Right.
And pressure makes it not explode as much. But the whole hot water heater could be sort of like a bomb.
Yeah.
So that's why, unless you want bombs in your house.
Right. Yeah. Don't go messing around with that.
And hopefully the pressure relief valve would work. It probably would, But there's also types of ways to do that. They're legal, and they have special controllers where you have direct solar hot water heater. And so let's say it's an electric hot water heater. A lot of electric hot water heaters have two elements in it. There'd be like a top one and a bottom one. And what you can do is you could take one of those elements, heat it, do the direct solar thing on it, and the other one works off the electricity, and then on a cloudy day you still have hot water. So Mr. Money Mustache, you might not want to sit next to him on a cloudy day when he takes a cold shower.
Well, he would sometimes unplug it from the water heater and then plug it into a bucket heater and then just drop that in his hot tub as well.
Oh, okay.
And then get natural hot water in his hot tub.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so the first round wasn't very lightning, but lightning round number 2, you think moving on to topic number 2.
Well, let me just say one more thing about plug-in solar.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It is.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about it. I think it's true power to the people.
Yeah.
Especially for renters who don't have a roof that they can put solar on and have been locked out of that market, but they're still stuck where you live in PG&E. Renters are paying the same price that homeowners are paying for electricity, and they're stuck in an apartment. They can't do anything about it. That's incredible for someone like that.
Yeah, and you can take it with you can do it yourself, and it brings solar to the masses, which could increase the visibility of solar and then make more people go to Exact Solar and get solar installed.
Amazing. All right, so number 2, the second of 3 things I wanted to ask you about. Since I've been in the solar industry, we've had several larger installers, multi-state installers, basically crash and burn. Some could say that they grew too fast and then exploded. There's a bunch of different theories, but I think since I've been in the solar industry, it's been SunPower, Sonova, Titan, Posigen, and most recently Freedom Forever as we're recording this. I wanted to ask you your opinion about what do you think is happening here? Homeowners are very interested in it, but when a company does that, they leave homeowners without anyone to service their systems, without anyone to fix the systems that they've put in. And there's a lot of people who are stranded because some of the biggest companies in the industry just grew really fast and then disappeared.
Yeah.
Just love to get
So are we looking at an angle here from why are the companies going bankrupt, or these core people that don't have the right service on their systems?
What would you prefer?
I like being optimist.
Yeah.
So I like turning every negative into a positive. I twist it around. I'm a chronic optimist.
Yeah.
So let's look at the solar companies crashing, and that's not a new thing. And if we go back and look at computers and tech, when you look at these companies, like Google and Apple and stuff like that, and you're thinking, man, that was the right thing to invest in. But if you knew that was the right technology to invest in, but you didn't have the right stock ticker, and you might have invested in, Netscape or some of these things
Right.
that we don't even remember their names, or it's kind of a joke. You just, you're lucky when you pick a winner. And then whenever there's booms and busts, and so it kind of cleans it up, and the strongest survive. It's Darwinism and all that kind of stuff. And so even to look on the optimistic side of the solar coaster, and there's ups, Inflation Reduction Act, downs, topic 3 that we're going to talk about, the triple B.
Yeah.
And so it makes the industry kind of weeds stuff out, and it's all part of growing.
Yeah.
It's all part of evolution. And there's going to be some companies that go under, and there's other companies that are going to stick with it, make it last, make it, like maybe they foresaw that there's going to be some hard times that they were going to have to come up against, because things change. There's 4-year political cycles and stuff like that. And then when the next cycle comes along, and what will we have? President Ocasio-Cortez, they seem to correct pretty hard these days.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like if you just see, you got Obama, you got Trump, you have Biden, you got Trump.
Yeah.
I think Ocasio-Cortez fits that kind of overcorrection or whatever you might call it. So you got to be ready for that. And then when that happens, it'll be, really good for the solar industry. And the companies that stuck with it are going to turn into like the Googles and the Apples and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so you're saying this is more of a natural evolution, and as someone who's newer to the industry, I've only been here just under 3 years, really, that I shouldn't be afraid of this. This is just kind of what happens in any industry is you have like earlier adopters, people grow really fast, take advantage of opportunities, go out of business, and then the people who are around the longest kind of become the stable giants.
Have you ever heard of a Tucker or a Studebaker?
No, I haven't.
Like, if you look at car history, and they're before my time, but there were some really cool car companies back in the day when they were like inventing cars and the decades after that went out of business. I think the Chucker, when you turned the wheel, it had this headlight in the middle of the turn. I mean, it was really cool.
That's
like
amazing.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it might have been better technology than the competitors, but they just didn't set up their business right, or just like sometimes you're too early for something, sometimes you're too late.
Right.
So it's just all, catching the right wave, and it's just the way things happen, It's like, why isn't, what we had, like AOL, some people still have their AOL email addresses.
Yeah.
We had, Yahoo, there's still a couple of Yahoos around there.
Yeah.
But perhaps it's something like that. I kind of think too that sometimes even the big companies go under, like you're talking about SunPower.
Yeah.
And sometimes the companies too, like they sort of go under, but somebody gets their assets and then they come back to life, resurrection.
Right.
So, corporations are more important than people. They call it corporate personhood. And so just like we have resurrection for religion, we have corporate resurrection for corporate religion. So. The one who's in trouble.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, so I think Solyndra is going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
And be the main company out there. And it's going to they're going to be take over all the fast food, everything,
Folks, you heard it here. Sean White says Solyndra is going to come back and take over the solar.
One time I was in the audience at the Colbert Report.
Yeah.
Before, he got on the big bucks, and when he was a fake conservative talk show host. And I was wearing a Solyndra shirt, and he was warming up on the audience. I stood up, and he was like, "What's that shirt there?" And I told him, "Solyndra Corporation is going to take over the world." Solyndra had just died, so it was all in the news. And I told him my theory about corporate personhood and the corporate messiah. I was
Amazing.
was going to use Solyndra, and they're going to come back. Take over all business.
You must have been his favorite audience member that
He
day.
told the security guys, keep an eye on me.
We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's Solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show.
All right, so to sum up what we've learned so far, plug-in solar, very cool, but some things that we need to iron out and some natural safety evolutions that are going to happen. Large companies growing really fast and then going out of business is part of the natural evolution of an industry.
Yeah.
So let's move on to, I think, the biggest story of the last year, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which...
Why did he call it beautiful?
Because that's the literal name.
Oh, I know, but like you're just giving them more powers.
That's true. I am still calling it NREL. I refuse to call it whatever they want us to call it now.
Something in the Rockies.
Especially because I'm from Colorado, and I'm like, you can't just rename landmarks. That's been
Did you know
the same thing.
you know it used to be called Solar Energy Research Institute when Carter named it Siri?
Yeah.
So by that same theory, you got to go back and call it Siri.
I will happily do that.
Yeah. So start calling it Siri, Solar Energy Research Institute, because then Reagan, he's the one that changed it to NREL and kind of defunded it. So then now the same thing happened that Trump did to Reagan. He's like stepping on Reagan.
Well, fantastic.
You know? I mean, Reagan's a liberal compared to Trump, right? He's like likes immigrants and all that kind of stuff. And well, both of those guys used to be Democrats, but anywhere.
Well, I like to be obstinate, especially if I think it's funny. So Solar Energy Research Center.
So Institute. Yeah, Siri.
Solar Energy Research Center. Yeah, Siri.
Yeah. So,
Amazing.
And so what about this bill? So it's all part of that. Of course, it's like related to the last question that we just had about the companies going under and stuff like that. And sometimes it doesn't just have to do with like a bad company or just the management changes, or if you look at SunPower, they have like international branches and stuff like that. They, sometimes companies get rated. I'm not saying that has to do with any of the companies that we're talking about. So there could be a big company and the CEOs and the board, they go like, let's pay ourselves a whole lot of money until the company goes bankrupt.
Right.
We'll make that's a smart money move for a CEO.
Right.
So
good work if you can get it.
And then SunPower for manufacturing is just called Maxian. So that's still around. And I'm sure, is SunPower still in existence in some way right now?
I'm not actually sure.
Yeah. And by the way, too, I had the founder of SunPower, just had him on my podcast, 80-year-old Dick Swanson, which I was super honored. And so he started SunPower. He developed the back contact solar cell. He came up with this thing called Swanson's Law that he's too modest to take credit for. But anyway, so we're back to the triple B, the big bad whatever you call it. I have trouble saying it.
I've heard it referred to in a lot of hilarious ways.
Triple B, but they're all named for marketing, like even the Inflation Reduction Act.
Right.
I think that it was IRA. It's like, I don't really understand how it reduced inflation, but it's a good marketing word, and also it gets a lot of like Irish dissidents on their side. I don't want to say to those words, cancel me. Okay.
I don't know how angry the Irish get nowadays, but maybe.
And so the bill, it's like a big stand against renewables and all this kind of stuff. And so it took out the customer-owned 30% tax credit.
Right.
And like New Year's Eve last year, people are on roofs installing in the snow just to get it out right at the last minute. And that way, if you weren't fortunate enough to be a corporation like I am, well, I am that one corporation.
I'm sure,
then you were just some kind of peon, and you buy a PV system, and before you would get this 30% of your money as good as a gift certificate for paying taxes. So it's like really cool. And then after New Year's Eve, you couldn't get it. But there's some ways of still getting it, because if a corporation owns the system, then you can get this same tax credit until there's a couple of different deadlines that I talk about in my other podcast. What is it? It's like there's a July 4th. Is it start the project July 4th this year?
Yes.
Of starting the project. So for big utility scale projects, all they have to do is start it, like do something to start it, and then they have a lot of time. And it takes a long time to do those projects. Or what is it, the following year, New Year's Eve, I think, is that it?
Yeah.
And they have to finish the project.
Right.
One or the other. You don't have to do both. And then also, I'm thinking too that they're going to get these projects in, and you've got midterm elections November of this year. And so, by the way, we are in 2026, if you didn't know. And so November this year, there's going to be elections, things are going to shift around. Also, they might extend the tax credit. And why not? You know, I don't know. I'm hopeful of all that.
There's legislation actually that was just introduced, written by Brian Fitzpatrick, who was one of the only no votes on the One Big Beautiful Bill, Republican rep, who is actually our rep for Exact Solar, for the district that Exact Solar is in.
Oh, you just had him on your podcast. I was just listening.
I did not. I would love to have him.
Oh, I thought you had somebody.
No, I had Anders Alexander on the comments about that legislation. I would love to have him on. We haven't gotten him on yet. But yeah. So they're thinking of extending specifically the commercial credit. Their legislation doesn't include bringing it up to residential credit. But I know that when we were doing the training today, you talked about how it's really important that we advocate to our legislators to say that we can't just take things away like really fast. It's just bad for business.
Yeah, they need to taper back all incentives. So I know all of the government listens to your podcast, so you've worked in government, taper back incentives, don't cut them off all at once. Like 30% overnight is just stupid. It's bad for business, bad for jobs.
Yeah.
It creates like an extra amount of business before it expires, and then, you know, of course it drops off after that, and then it takes a while to ramp up, and it hurts people.
Yeah.
It hurts all kinds of people and all parties and all that kind of stuff, and we gotta not do that anymore. No more quick pulls.
Yeah.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Optimism. Once you have optimism, everything works out.
Yeah, so it affects people a lot when they do these things, and then it puts in fear, and then it makes people want to invest. And so my other theory too is like they might bring it back. You know, the best way to bring it back is have Trump say it was his idea.
I mean, yeah, it could work. Yeah.
And
he does take credit, and we'll build a statue of him holding a solar panel. I'm sure he'd love that.
And one thing about Trump is he's not afraid to change his mind.
That's true.
So, it's not too far-fetched that it could happen.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we just got to make him think that he came up with the idea.
It was his idea.
Incentives. Maybe that it was his plan all along to just take them away and then bring them back.
Yeah.
It's because he's playing 4D chess. While the rest of us are playing checkers.
Yeah.
So to sum up what we've learned so far, plugging solar, very cool, but needs to be figured out. Big companies going out of business, part of the natural evolution of the industry. One Big Beautiful Bill, we need to advocate with our representatives to taper incentives rather than take them away all at once. I ask everyone who comes on this show the same closing question.
Oh, I just had an idea.
Yeah.
Before you said.
Yeah.
My idea is we have corporations own the plug-in solar with microloans, and then you get the 30% tax credit.
Interesting idea.
Because I don't think it's excluded that you could do that.
Someone will come up with this. Some sort of plug-in solar PPA.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And it'll pay for itself and all that. I saw one. Have you seen one of the plug-in solar things? Like Bernadette Del Chiaro just came to the NorCal Solar event that we had.
Okay.
And she brought one, and it was pretty cool. Just plug it in the wall.
Yeah.
So,
Well, really, anyone who's DIY just needs an inverter. And then you can get the cheapest panels you can find on Facebook Marketplace, like from some job site someone pulled off. You can get panels for $50 usually.
Yeah. And I actually, in a way, pioneered plug-in solar because I bought an inverter that would plug into the wall at 120, and then I would carry it around and bring it to classes.
Oh, nice.
So I've had that for years. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I was plugging in phase microinverters they would work at like 240 and 208.
Yeah.
And I would go into the classroom and I'd find plugs that were out of phase with each other.
Yeah.
And then I would have to have 2 extension cords come into one inverter, and I could make it backfeed a hotel and all that kind of stuff. I've been doing that for like 18 years.
So this has been a thing forever.
Yeah.
And if you just do it today, like nothing happens, right?
Well, I guess like the one thing that could happen is you got your plug-in solar, you're not home, you got an apartment, everything in your house is off, it's a bright sunny day, you're exporting, your meter is spinning backwards, the utility can find out.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. And did you ever hear of Guerrilla Solar? Like if you look into old HomePower magazines, they had, every time they came out with a HomePower magazine, they had somebody covering their face, feeding the grid with solar. And a lot of those were just plugging into the wall.
Right. Okay.
And it would be like their 240 watt system that's, with 6 modules and all this stuff, and they're like plugging it into the wall.
Yeah. So my friend with the hot water heater, that's Guerrilla Solar.
Yeah.
Got it.
And if you took plug-in solar that was legal for one state and not for the other, that would be Guerrilla in it.
Okay. Yeah. Not recommended for anyone who's listening. We follow.
Yeah, we respect our state
Love the laws.
sovereignties.
All right. So, as I mentioned, I ask everyone who comes on the same closing question, even though this is your show.
And yours.
And mine, yeah.
And whoever's listening, you can have it too.
So, a couple years ago, I spoke at my grandma's 80th birthday party. That was when I came up with this question. I realized that when I was reflecting on it afterwards, that 80 years means that she was born into a world where what we call renewable energy didn't exist. Like, I mean, we had hydropower, we had windmills that pumped water. I don't know if they generated electricity yet, but PV cells hadn't even been invented. PV cells being the building block of a solar module or solar panel.
Yeah, the first thing that was like that was 1954.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she was born in 45. So my grandma was born into a world where none of this existed yet. And the whole journey of the invention of PV, all the way down to PV being the cheapest power source in the world, the whole ride that we've gone on has all happened within her lifetime. So if you were to just moonshot, what do you think energy is going to look like 80 years from now? If we take ahead another 80 years.
Okay, I'll tell you when that happens. Yeah.
You come back on the show?
So let's see. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we got me. And so I know that we're going to figure out like longevity and life extension and all that stuff. And you know what? It's like, it's possible. There's like a lot of pathways for crazy stuff to happen.
Yeah.
And if even we look at our lifetimes, we've seen a lot of stuff. And I know you're probably younger than I am. But it's like we've seen like people go in like TV in your hand.
Yeah.
Cell phones, like there's this thing called the brick that was like, in the 90s, it was just like this lead acid battery cell phone or something that takes 2 hands to hold it sometimes.
Yeah.
And so now we're up to like AI when you're just like having a conversation with your phone,
Right.
And so have you ever heard of Ray Kurzweil?
Yes.
He's like kind of a futurist.
Yeah.
And talks about the singularity, and he was like the CTO of Google for a while. And I've been kind of like followed him a lot, listened to a lot of his stuff, and he's predicted a lot of this stuff. And I'm trying to remember the exact names of what he calls it and everything, but there's like Moore's Law. But then there's also not just that Moore's Law fits more stuff on a small chip, but the price of it goes down too. So you've got like log on one side and log on the other. And so we have this fast growth of technology, and it keeps like the doubling rate keeps getting cut in half or something like that. So you go back, to like real long time ago, and technology is like, you got the Stone Age, you got the Bronze Age, the Steel Age, all that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden you got the Industrial Revolution, you got the Computer Revolution, you've got the AI Revolution, or whatever all these things are. And it's kind of crazy that my grandparents were like riding horses and carts, and stuff like that. And then here I am mad because my car's not self-driving.
Yeah.
So the speed of technology goes up, and the way that the human mind thinks is linear.
Yeah.
And the way that this kind of growth happens is logarithmic, exponential. And it's probably like 80 years from now. It's probably like way beyond what anybody can imagine. If you went back to the beginning of the solar industry, whatever, 2000 or like 2010 or something, when it was just like in the year 2000, the whole world had something like a gigawatt, 1,000 megawatts. And now we have thousands of times more solar in the world. And it just kind of grows And it just like you have this doubling rate, as things double. And that's for this one technology. And then there's these other technologies. And, who knows what these technologies in 80 years, that's such a long time. If what I say is true, when I answer this question, everybody's going to think I'm crazy. And actually, they're the ones that are crazy. So, I don't know, 80 years from now, so we're talking about somewhere in 2100s over there. Yeah. And I think that it'll be people will look at cars, we're looking out the window here at Philly, and there's the Ben Franklin Bridge in the background, and it's stupid. All of these things going at different speed and thousands of pounds of metal zipping past each other.
Right.
The number one cause of death of teenagers. It's just stupid, and it kills older people too, but we have, cancer and stuff is more popular when you get older, and heart disease and all that kind of stuff. So independent pieces of metal zipping around in traffic, I think that's stupid. I think that there are different types of transportation where, with a car, you go faster, you need a bigger distance. We'll get rid of that. We'll have them all going at different speeds. We'll get rid of that. We'll still have transportation. It'll be much faster. We'll probably be traveling faster than the speed of sound, even from across the city or something like that.
Where do you think solar is going? Do you think we'll just be able to paint it on surfaces?
That is a good question. So solar, some of the future solar technologies, one way is to make a sun on Earth. They call it fusion. I don't think that's going to be the big way of doing it, because we just have a big old fusion ball up there and we have all these crystals in the desert. And so likely there will be space-based solar power. They're already doing it. And that they're we're trying to go to space right now, and it's we're almost caught up to where we were in the 60s, 1969. We haven't made it quite to Neil Armstrong yet, the time we're recording this podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll probably go way beyond that. Yeah. We're just so far way beyond that. And so the next energy race will probably be on the moon, and there's water, and there's sunlight, and everybody wants to get to the poles first, because at the poles of the moon, you put solar there, and the moon doesn't tilt relative to the sun as far as going around the sun. The moon is almost straight up and down. So there's no winter and summer in the moon. It's just it's orange and perfect. And so if you're on the poles and you're on top of a crater or a little mountain or something like that, you're going to have sun, even though the moon spins every 28 days. It's got a 28-day day. It's going to always have sun there. And so you just have to follow it. Or if you're a little bit off, you'll have some darkness or whatever. But those would be the valuable places to be, is on the moon. And then you're taking that moon stuff, that moon water, turn it into oxygen and hydrogen. You got hydrogen, you got rocket fuel, you recombine them, you can take rockets off. To get off the moon, gravity is so much less than Earth. It's not a big deal. On the moon, there's no atmosphere either. You can actually go into orbit pretty much with a slingshot.
Yeah.
What they call it, a rail gun, or there's some name for that. There's something that they're talking about. And so you can, with Earth, you do something like that. If you could get fast enough to go into orbit right off the surface of Earth, the air gets in your way and it heats everything up. It's damn atmosphere. Yeah. And so moon technology, then manufacturing on the moon, because the moon is essentially the same elements as Earth.
Yeah.
And so we just have to sort it out. There's probably big old pieces of gold sticking around, all kinds of stuff up there. And so that's the new frontier.
Right.
The moon, and we've got orbit, we've got low gravity. Then pretty soon we're going to have space stations. One of the things I want to build on the moon is a hotel with a room where you can have high dives, where you could do quadruple flips, and you can put on wings and have like they were trying to do in the old days with those old movies where they're trying to fly, land into airplanes.
That sounds incredible.
But you could really do that maybe on the moon with the very low gravity.
That might happen within our lifetime.
Yeah, I think it'll happen sooner than we think. Yeah. And so you're asking me where solar would be at. I think a lot of it will be in space.
Yeah.
But a lot of it will be everywhere. Building materials, just all over the place, shade structures. A lot of the things that would be stupid to do today like putting solar on the roads. Do you remember that solar freaking roadway videos and all that kind of stuff?
I've seen a couple of those.
Like today's technology is kind of done, but like eventually maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
Maybe building integrated PV, which doesn't make financial sense when you're competing against like our beautiful rectangles that we put up.
Yeah.
But as time goes on and technology gets better and cheaper and more robotic and stuff, we'll probably see more building materials that are made out of solar. Maybe it'll be something like stupid to not have a roof made out of solar. People are just like, what?
Yeah.
Your roof doesn't have solar on it? You know, it's like, you don't have a TV, or
Right.
you don't have a phone. You know, like, maybe there'll be, when you build a house, you just like punch in the dimensions of the roof and a helicopter comes or drone and comes and it sets the whole roof as just one giant solar module.
Ooh.
Something like that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
is there anything else you want to cover before we head out and meet the team?
Gosh. Well, everybody, keep it real. Keep it fun.
And
Don't be boring. Get yourself NABCEP certified.
That's
Get
right.
Exact Solar to install solar for you.
Love that, the great endorsement. Where do you want to be found if you do want to be found?
Yeah, where do I want to be? I want to be found on, some other galaxy would be kind of cool.
Well, okay, if you have the tech to transport Sean to another galaxy, send it.
Yeah. And not Andromeda. I'm like totally prejudiced against Andromedans.
Yeah. You can find Sean on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can find me all over the place. SolarSEAN.com. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, man.
Woo!